And we're live, everyone. Hello, hello. And it's Friday, and we're here for another episode of No Particular Reason. We're up to episode 29. Yes. And as you probably noticed, Kerri, it's missing. I am your host, Yanko. And we have somebody else who's going to be my co host today. You probably know Gail Kraft. She's been with us on the show previous times, a couple of times as a guest, and today she's filling in for Kerri. Hello, Gail. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Yanko? I'm
I'm
so
wonderful.
I'm so thrilled to be here. This is going to be so much fun. Who knows where this conversation will go? We have an idea
Yeah,
where it will start.
that's right. So let's start from somewhere. What would you like to start with? I'll give you the
Give me the mic.
chance to pick up a topic and let's see where this goes.
Right, exactly. And folks, please pipe in. So I put a post out yesterday, and it's about a training that I'm developing called Business Woo and You. And the reason is, as a child and growing up, every time my abilities showed up, I hid them. I felt guilty. I felt shame, right? I didn't let people know what was going on. I didn't understand. I was confused and I didn't know who to turn to. So buried it, buried it, buried it. And it would pop up again and buried it, buried it. And when I got older and became an entrepreneur, I became a business coach, buried the woo, but it kept popping up. And I felt, well, this isn't right. This isn't me. So I went woo. Spiritual. Well, that didn't feel right. That's not all me, right? And so I do both. And people don't understand because we're so attuned to monologuing people like, you're this, you're in this folder. And we're not. We're multidimensional. We're very complex. We have very many skills. And so I'm out of the closet. Business woo.
Wonderful. I can relate also myself because I still feel that way when I go in like business platforms like LinkedIn
Hmm.
and other places where I'm like, everybody kind of knows me as the computer techie guy, and I'm struggling myself with that, and I haven't made peace, but I'm sure soon enough I'll do that. How did you gone through this? How did you
How did I
like
come?
manage?
How did I
Yeah,
integrate?
right.
Um, I think it happened, 2020 is when I started owning the woo, um, in a way that I could identify with in the third dimension, if that makes any sense. Rather than up here somewhere, it's like, okay, bring it into now. And then I owned the fact that in retrospect, every time I was successful in business, it's because I allowed the flow to happen, right? And so I created a training and a keynote called Crafting the Flow Formula. And it's for leaders in business to connect with flow, how to connect and why, and how to lead a team in flow, because I did it without realizing it. And when I owned that,
Mhm.
it's like, well, Gail, you're all of this and more. So it's really owning it and then coming out of the closet.
Yeah, I'm finding myself a lot of times when I am in the head and thinking too much and not allowing flow to happen, and just be spontaneous in the moment, like just express whatever feelings or whatever you feel like you have to express. Things are not going too much like the way I'm expecting them, because like there's a lot of like mind going in and rethinking things up, and instead of just being in the flow, I'm kind of stepping out and not allowing myself to be in flow. So recognizing it's also another part of it, to be able to
Recognizing.
recognize like, oh, like
Oh,
I'm getting in it.
I'm stuck in my head. So there's a book I love called Power versus Force,
Mhm.
right? And I was raised with work hard, work hard, work hard, right?
Right.
Um, which is force. Now
Right.
is connect and do it. So those who are listening, I challenge you. Was there ever a time in your life when you were stuck with something and you just like, I'm done, and you walk away? An hour later, you come back and go, oh, pum, 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 because you stopped the force, relaxed, and allowed yourself to receive life force energy, and you come back with a much clearer perspective,
That's right.
right?
It happens to me a lot of times before I even started to recognize it. When I'm getting to the point that I'm just so tired and wear off, and I feel like I need to be somewhere, but I'm not getting where I want to be, and I keep pressing and I'm pressing and I'm pressing until to the point where I'm completely exhausted and I just give up and I just go, okay, I just have to step out for a minute and come back or whatever, or next day, and just throw the towel at it and come back. And then everything just goes. It's just like, in seconds
Right.
after. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting how that works. Whenever I've been in a position where I have said to myself, I can make this work,
Hmm.
I cannot make this work,
Right.
right? I can allow it to unfold, but I can't make it work. Manifestation for me, and I'll tell you my first time I realized that I manifested things. Um, I'm working in this company, and my boss says, "What's your 5-year plan?" And I said, "Have your job." And it was, right? I thought I could handle that. Oh, by the way, guys, no college degree at this time, and a mother, single mother, just to let you know. And so, 2 years later, I get a call from the president. I'm firing your boss, and I think you could do the job. We're in trouble, and I think you can pull us out. 2 years. Why? Because I knew it, I believed it, I said it, and then I let it go. I totally forgot that that's what I wanted and just did my thing. And that's what manifestation is. Trying to make something manifest always fails for me. But when I let go, I turn around and go, oh, there it is.
Yeah, but it feels that it's so hard to do at times because you're into the doing mode. You're like your condition of like doing, like, oh, I gotta do this to get this result, or I gotta do this other thing to get this other result. And the conditioning of doing, 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 it's kind of hard to, switch off the mindset of like not doing as much, but more allowing for things to happen. That you can have the idea or something that you want to manifest and send it out there, but allowing it to happen without having any kind of expectations or anything. Kind of like, meh, it'll happen when it happens. It'll come to pass when it's time, and it just happens. But it took me a while to figure that one out, and sometimes I still struggle with that because like the old mindset will come in and be like, hey, you got to do something. It feels like you're sitting and you're not doing something, but you're in the mode of like doing something.
What happens to me is I, when I look back, because it's easy to look back at the pearls, if you will, of the
Mm,
past. Um, do take action, but it's aligned action without, like you said, expectations of the result, with a desire,
right.
but without expectations. I'll give you a more recent example, which is kind of funny. So last year, I was going through this wonderful thing called chemotherapy, and I
Mm,
lost my hair. As my hair was coming out, I needed someone to shave my head, and didn't think about it. I just was like, I'm not going to a hairdresser. This is so personal. And I'm talking with a friend of mine who had gone through something a few years ago, and she goes, Gail, I used to be a hairdresser. It'd be an honor for me to cut your hair and shave your head. I said, no, thank you, because I was embarrassed. I walked away, and literally the universe yelled at me, you ask for something, we give it to you, and you say no? And I'm like,
yes.
oh my God, you're right. So I went back and I went, yes, please, will you come? And so she did. It was a beautiful experience. I'm so happy that I did it. She was amazing, so loving and so caring, and, helped me deal with, because she knew the emotional, there goes the one thing that defines me, if you will. And it was a miracle. And it was at that point that I'm like, how many times in my life, how many times in your life did you ask for something? It was given to you, and you went, yeah, no, because it
Well,
wasn't
yeah, I
given the way
mean,
you expected.
right. I had a situations like that when I wanted something and I sent it out to the universe, and then the universe brought it back. But then at that point, I didn't really wanted it anymore. That
Okay.
wasn't the thing I wanted. That was just some kind of like a fog or something that get me out of, like, there was a deeper goal that I was going for, so that become meaningless when I got it. And I was just kind of looked it up and I smiled to myself and I said, "You don't really know what you want, do you?" You know. And I laughed at that moment because it was just like, oh, only if I have this. But then the universe gives it to you, and you're like, almost like that saying, be careful what you wish for because you might get it. And then you'll be like, oh, what do I do with it now?
Well, and that's so. Let's take this to. We can bring it back to business and success.
Mm,
Um, Many people define their success by their bank account,
mm,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of people that I've worked with are, if they had the money that they say they desire, they wouldn't know how to handle it,
Mm,
right? And so they're not ready to receive the money. So Abraham Hicks, Esther talks about, it's there, it's piling up, it's
mm,
beautiful, right?
yeah.
But you're not ready,
Right.
right? And that's when we talk about action and aligned action, that's what that's all about. It's, are you ready emotionally, spiritually, physically, um, to handle it? Because if you're not, even if you get it, that's the roller coaster, you lose it, right? So those of you who've had that up and down, probably why.
Well, if you look at it like a more grounded level of like day to day, maybe operating, then it'll come to um, not having the experience. So it's an experience because, like, if you
Yes.
never dealt with money or anything like that, then it's like those people that win the big game or the win the lotto, and then 2 months down the road they're broke again because
Yes.
they're not resonating with that. There was a chance to learn a lesson out of the whole situation, but you didn't go the way you should have gone, or maybe you
Right.
didn't took anything out of the whole situation.
I love that. And that's back to power versus force, right?
Right.
So, and aligned action. So, I also have a program, The Next Level Living, and part of that is experiencing. What does it feel like? And how do you anchor that feeling? And how do you start making choices aligned with that feeling of what it is that you want? Right. And so when you feel that, your body has no choice but to step into it.
Right.
And your
And
mind has no choice but to make choices aligned with that.
that's right.
Right.
And I see that happen with people that I work with because, like, when you imagine it, your body reacts because there's no mind, body, spirit. It's all connected. It's not a separate thing.
We
Uh,
are one.
yeah.
We are one. Um, yeah, I have an analogy in one of the books that I wrote where I talk about this body
Hmm.
is like a puppet, like a hand puppet. So when you see a puppet show, is it the puppet making decisions and moving around? No, there's a hand inside the puppet.
The puppeteer. Yeah.
Is the hand making decisions? No,
Hmm.
it's connected to an arm and a body. Is the arm and body making decisions? No, that's connected to the mind. Is the mind making decisions? I would say no, but we could say yes, right? We could say yes. And that,
Sure.
right, that is what we are, and we think about how our spirit is connected. And that's if we listen, right? But we were given free will, so we could make different choices. And that's where the free will comes in. When we're in tune and we listen, we get a nudge to go one way. And if we have the choice of going, no, I'm not going right. I know you're telling me to go right, but I'm going left.
Right.
And therefore suffer the consequences. Right?
Well, it's kind of, what is your experience of like working with people that have hard time envisioning it, or like if they envision it, but then there's blocks and other things that come out and they pump the brakes and they say, no, this feels scary. Like, I don't want to go there.
Of
What would you
course,
say
it's
to that
scary.
kind of people?
This is so. So in the next level living, the first thing we do is we create that avatar of
Mm,
desire, if you want. Um, and I have a process where you step into it, anchor it, and get rid of the old you, and we focus on that, right? And so let's take. Okay, I used to feel like an imposter, so I want to get rid of imposter syndrome. What's the opposite of that? Empowerment, let's say. All right, so let's work on empowerment this week. And what does that look like? How can you anchor that in? What are the actions you're going to take that allow you to feel that? Ooh, but disempowerment has come back up. So then we need to identify where is that on your timeline and put it there and leave it there, right? Because when we allow, so this is my experience, because I hate to say you, we, this has been my
right,
experience, right? When I allow my past, even if it's just yesterday, to enter into my now, I not only re-feel and re-experience that, but I cheat myself of the now
right,
experience, right?
right.
I've tainted it and I've cheated it. And so I have gotten to the point where I can say, yeah, I don't know why you're showing up. If there's a lesson, fine, leave the lesson, but you're getting out of my way. And the lesson may come up. In fact, it does. I'm like, oh, right, you're right, right. One of my major lessons is pay attention,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and I can agree with that. That's just kind of like, it goes along with not living in the now, because you always bring up your past into the present, reliving it and comparison. Like, if this then that, if this then that. Oh my God, this happened. Maybe this will happen, or maybe you can even like attempt to predict the future and like future pace it. Like, oh, because this happened, and like, yeah, this
Yeah,
is, and then you're missing the mark. You're always like either in the future or in the past. You're not like in the present. So that's wonderful that you brought it up.
yeah.
And this is why I asked, because a lot of people, um, when it comes up, it's a new thing because they weren't aware to a point when this is present. They mostly went on like, oh, this is happening because like it's me. I have this
Oh yeah,
memory or
my
whatever.
mother kicked me in the bum last year and blah blah blah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right,
yeah.
that was then, right? There's a
Right,
lesson for you in that.
right,
Take the lesson, stop blaming, right?
right.
Right? So, and it's a process. It's a process. So, to bring this back to business, when I was, so I'll tell you about the success of that first job. I did turn that business around. We were making a bundle in no time, and had to buy computers and software and projects because tax time was coming. We were
Mm,
making too much profit from
mm,
thinking in like 6 or 7 months to, oh, okay, tax time is coming. What are we going to do? Right? Not a bad problem. How did I do that? I 100% believed that I had the opportunity to succeed here. I didn't think there was failure. I thought, this is a chance for me to shine. There's only one way to go when you're on the ground, and that's up. I didn't know you could bury, right? I didn't, it wasn't, so I believed, number one. So I energetically was in a success mode. And I just, what can I do now? Do it. I didn't have a plan of do this, 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 and this. It's like, what can I do now? Let's implement it. What can I do now? Let's implement. And I did things like going to the bank and asking the bank, to share in their nightly profits process. It's called a sweep. They sweep your account, invest it for 24 hours, and then bring the money back. I told him I wanted some of that sweep. We got it. So we started making interest. Hold on a second. To working with our vendors. Oh God, I need to get off and drink. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. And I want to use the time to remind our audience or viewers that either if you watch us on the recording or live, please comment, share, subscribe, or give us your feedback. Let us know what you want to see more of or what you want to see less of, so we can be of service.
So I just made change after change after change. And the president would say, "How did you know that would work?" And I would say, "How did you not know? How did you not know?" Because I was totally how it felt. It wasn't a logical, if I do
Right.
this, this will happen. It's like, this feels wrong. I need to investigate it and change it. This feels wrong. I need to investigate it and change it. I had no idea what I was doing and 100% relied on my instinct. That's business and woo.
Yeah.
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 Well, I think I'm seeing it, and like there is also an experience point, like when you get to the point of like facing different difficulties of like growing your own business or working in another environment. There's always difficulties of like, oh, I didn't know about this, and just like you mentioned about the sweep with the bank, you learn as you go, but there's also a lot of I think a lot of intuition involved, because like some people just they just have it. They go with their gut. They have the intuition, and they do like one successful thing after another successful thing. And you go and you ask them, and you say, "Well, how did you do it?" And you say, "I don't know. It just happened." It seems like magic.
Well, it's like, so most of my clients are business people, entrepreneurs. I have some that are in careers, but most are entrepreneurs. And we'll be working on something, and I will, like, out of left field, come up with, "Have you thought of doing this?" And they'd be like, "That is brilliant." Like, pfft. So I record my sessions because sometimes I'll get, "What did you just say?" Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, but you'll get the
Yeah,
recording.
right.
Right?
And that's a perfect example of not being in your head, because in that moment you're not like sitting there and thinking, what can I do to solve this problem? You're not in like problem solving mode, or like I find myself a lot of times, not as much now, but like at the beginning when I started this adventure, it was just like, oh, how do I solve this? And I'm getting stuck in the head instead of just being open to receive or like relate or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
and
know
I
exactly what you're talking about.
exactly. And I'll give you an example of a couple where I was talking with a couple of gentlemen who had the same problem. And it was with their spouse. You know, they're entrepreneurs, and sometimes you hit a tough spot, and the spouse is like, "How are we going to pay the bills this month?" Right? And you
Right.
get over that, but it's like when you're in it, and they were buckling down on force for the business,
Mm,
and I just went family first, and they both went, "No, a man's job is to bring home the
provide.
bacon."
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to tell you that's came to me to tell you that. I would say a week later, one of them says to me, "My wife had COVID, and then I got it. And as she was taking care of me, she said, 'You totally ignored me while I had COVID. I don't even know why I'm in this relationship. You care more about that business than me.'" And I said to him, "When I said family first, you poo pooed me. Family first." He's
Yeah.
completely shifted. And guess what? She is totally supporting his business, totally behind him because he's putting her first. It's so important. And we get, again, our force wants us to make it happen.
Well, not
Our,
only force, but like also programming. I can relate to that as a man. You know,
mhm.
I go through the same thing. Like I have to bring home the bacon.
You do, but at what cost? What's the
Right.
opportunity cost?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
get back to the conversation where we had when something is hard, when we walk away and we come back, pff, there it is. When you walk away, so I have my clients get protected time with their spouse and with their children. And you decide, is that an hour a week? Is that a day a week? Is that a day a month? I don't care, but do it
Right.
because family first. And they know you're busy, you're tied up in this, but on the third Sunday of every month, you and I are on a date night. Huge impact on your relationship. I had one client, she was taking her younger son out for his protected time. And he opens the door for her, perfect little gentleman, and he gets in and he said, "Tell your coach I love her because I've gotten lost. You don't even see me." She didn't even know. So that protected time,
Yeah.
even if it's an hour a month in the backyard throwing a ball with your kid,
Right.
right? They know this is my time with you.
Right.
No one else can come in. You're not going to schedule some important meeting. Nothing is going to
You're
stop
not
them,
gonna be taking phone calls or
right?
rescuing people or oh my god, the
Right. Leave the
sky's
cell phone in
falling
the
or
house and go out.
yeah.
Yep. You can
Yeah.
take a message an hour later, right? It is so important. And we forget because we get in the realm of supporting the family, giving the kids the best experience they can have. Meanwhile, they're going to this, they're going to that, they're going to this. How much are you involved, right? It's really important. And when you do that, look at how many really successful people are at the soccer game with their kid. Probably all of them. Why?
Right.
Because they've stepped away, are taking a breath, and are focusing on what's important right now,
Yep.
right? Just think about that for a minute, because that's how you step into the power. You walk away and you let it go. You don't walk away and worry about, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. You are in the now with your child, with your significant other, with whatever relationship that you're nurturing. You're in the now. And when you come back to that work that needs to be done, it is so much easier to get done. Even if it's 11 o'clock at night, it's easier,
Right.
right? At least that's my
So I
experience.
have, yeah. So I have a thought that came out, and I'm going to share with you. How about people that are not in, um, like they're so used to and like go 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 and being disconnected from family and everything. It just feels weird to them, even if, like, say, like the gentleman you were talking about, like, say you tell him, "Hey, I'm saying that for you. Like, why don't you try this?" And if they go like, that's an interesting thing. Maybe I want to try it. But then it feels weird to them because they're so used to into like getting up in the morning, being in the habit of like dressing up, putting the suit on, going to work, doing all this bam 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 bam, being in the phone, and so family and everything kind of disconnects and becomes like a thing, kind of like
It's a rush
having a
versus a
dog, but are
routine.
not like,
Yeah.
yeah, not having it. You know what I mean? Like I have a wife and son or whatever, but it's just like everybody else. But this is my thing. You know what I mean? How about that?
Well, so they identify with the rush. They identify, and they might get a thrill from it,
Mm,
right? And that's fine. One of the things that I also work on is um, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's making one small change every day, one small change in your routine, you know, um, from driving to work in a different route,
mm,
right? Or leaving, you know, going to lunch in a different place, right? Sitting down with different people, right? So it's not major, but it's very uncomfortable. And so
it
this
is.
person, we would map out the small changes in order to get comfortable with being uncomfortable before I would even ask to make that major of a change. Let's make incremental changes. You know, spend 5 minutes with your family before you walk out the door.
Right.
Well, they can't do that. They can't because this is their routine, their rut, right? Well, that means I have to wake up 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Right.
know.
And my alarm
I
goes off at
know.
this time. I do this. I do this. I do this. Right. They're the ones who have the coffee pot on the timer. And, right. Everything is that planned out. So to break that, we need to
It,
find
it
what resonates with them and what their core values are, and then focus on that.
Yep. And I can share a personal experience with somebody that, had something similar when I was like, why don't you just try to take a different, because their thing was they had a new puppy and they were taking it, but they're living downtown, so there isn't very many parks and it's busy in downtown Chicago. And like they had to take a certain route because that's how they were used to, like, going in and getting things done. So it's like, do I really want to take the puppy this route and be adventurous or something? And we had this conversation. I said, it's not as bad. Like, why don't you try it? Baby steps. Maybe don't change the whole route. Just change one, maybe little corner, or you might like it. Who knows? Just be adventurous. And so they came back after that and said, never doing this again. This was the worst experience of my life. We went out. The dog went off the street. It went through the bushes. I almost slip and fall. I was trying to rescue it and this and that. And I was like, wow. So there is resistance in like changing, because then expectation comes in. Because like if you're expecting for the worst, of course you're gonna see the worst of what you're expecting.
Because you manifest
So
it.
right, you manifested it, because like they already have this like um, expectation of how this is gonna be. Like, this is gonna be the worst because I'm changing the route. I'm gonna have to do this, and even if something good came out of that, they won't see it, because again, like what we talked about, past coming in the future and future pacing to whatever you're expecting to happen.
So,
So,
confessions of a type A control freak, everyone. That person is someone who has to control every aspect of their life because they're that full of fear. And so, if I had them, Yanko, I would have to get to what is the fear? What's the root? And let's put it where it belongs and get the gift,
mm,
right?
right.
But that much fear is usually very complex. Mine was very complex, right? It had to do with, trust, which is one of my top, it's number 3 on my value list. And I didn't trust people. Can you imagine how out of alignment I was, right? Trust because of abandonment. And when
Mm,
I was first told about you have abandonment issues, I said, no,
what are you talking about, right?
I don't know what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, right.
Sure.
Right. Um, so it takes a little bit to dig under what's going on. And I'll tell you, as my brother used to say, so think about this. I see the doctor when the pain of seeing the doctor is less than the pain I'm already in. I'll say that again. The pain of seeing the doctor is less than the pain I'm already in. People's, and so again, I'll use me. I did not change until the pain of facing me was less than the pain I allowed myself to live every day. And honestly, it is less. I mean, it's pain. It's pain. But when I addressed it, faced it, forgave it, loved it, integrated it, the result is so worth not living in that pain anymore. It's so worth not living there anymore, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so, but folks who are in that they don't even they can't comprehend not living. Again, it's like that gentleman who's so identified with his go, 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 right? Um, it's like when you say to folks, "So tell me, who are you?" "I'm a mechanic." I'm an electrician. I'm a contractor. No, you're not. That's a task you do. Who
Right.
are you? And they don't know. So that's what I do with the next level of living. It's like, who are you? And Yanko, when you own that, you have no choice but to live differently. And that's what I mean by next level living. You have to, because choices are so much clearer, so much easier, so different
Right.
than choices before. Um, Guys, I'm still on a road trip across this country. I'm on my way back, and so many magical things happen. One of them was I'm driving through the mountains in the desert, and the mountains in the desert, and the mountains in the desert, and I'm thinking the people who are in wagons coming across this country, how the hell did they make it? How did they make it? I'm for hours in the desert. They're for days in the desert, right? And then I'm for hours climbing the mountain. And they're for days climbing the mountain. Well, a lot of them didn't make it, right? A lot of them didn't. But imagine, talk about change and bravery and facing the unknown. Holy crap.
Uncertainties. Yeah.
Holy crap. Right. So I had awe and respect for our forefathers who took that journey on our behalf. And then I looked, when I was going through Utah, I was completely struck. And I thought, this earth, Mother Earth, went through massive chaos to create the beauty that we get to experience.
Yeah.
We go through massive chaos to create the beauty that we could be.
Wow. This is priceless.
Yeah,
This is gold. Yeah.
right?
And I know because I can relate to that. Yes.
Yeah. And again, the pain of that chaos, the messiness, if you will, is what folks are afraid of. And I'll be honest, it's the diving board thing. The first time you dive into that water, you're going to do a belly flop. You're going to get water in your lungs. You're going to have a hard time getting to the top to find even where the top is. But then you have allowed yourself to elevate to the next diving board. And the next time you dive in, you're not going to do a belly flop. So you might do your feet first, right? And you still might struggle to come up, but you're not going to swallow the water. And the third time
Right.
you do a
Right. Right.
pencil dive, right?
Right.
Right? So it's practice. It's practice, and practice with a guide, someone who's been there, someone who has experience, and someone who knows how to guide you. And I got to tell you, it's not an average coach. An average coach will help you with your business, help you with accountability, help you maybe break through barriers. But it's someone who knows the diving board.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like having the experience, so you don't end up being like the blind, walking the blind, because you've been there, you know what's going on. And this is so wonderful because a lot of the times when I read different spiritual texts and other things, a lot of like the Eastern philosophies, they say, oh, you have to have a guru or somebody that, been through the experience and can understand the whole transformation and the path and everything. And 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 that makes sense, not that you have to, but it'll make your journey shorter and easier than struggling to find your own path.
Well, if I'm working with someone who has learned from a book and has not had experience, then they're leading me by a belief,
Right.
not by experience.
Right.
And so their approach is in question.
Right.
It might work, but it's in question when someone goes by experience. So for me, thank you for all my experiences, universe. I could do this. It was horrible.
But it's a blessing in disguise, though. In the
It's a
same,
gift,
yeah, you already have it. You're like, yeah, I survived.
right?
I went through this.
Right? Right?
Right.
And so, do I know your experience, Yanko? Absolutely not. This is your life, your experience. I have not walked in your shoes. I cannot, no matter how much I empathize, know your experience. But I know what you're going through and how I went through it. And I know how to hold space and to guide the ship down the river, right? How to avoid the boulders that are in the way. Um, as you process your experience. And that's the key is I'm not going to tell you what's right or wrong because I don't know what's right or wrong for you. You have different values than me. You have
That's
different
right.
relationships than me. You have
Right.
different expectations than me,
Yep.
right?
You live in your own reality. Like
Oh my
everybody has
gosh.
their own. Yeah.
No, let's not go down that road. I could go forever. This is just a movie. Yeah, this is just a projection, right?
Hey, but this show is for no particular reason, so we can do any road. But keep going.
Okay. So so you remember the puppet with the hand,
Mm,
right? And so what is happening is my core, if you will, in order to expand, needs experience. And so I volunteered to come down into this third dimension and take on that experience, right? And I have done this many times. So there have been times in my life where I've been a murderer, I've been a raper, I've been, I might have been, Genghis Khan, right? We've all done good in what we label bad for the experience, right? But I also have free will, so I can change the path somewhat, somewhat. And so this energy is creating a story, and I am creating a story in order to move forward in this experience. And I'll give you a perfect example. Part of the process of releasing pain is changing perspective. When I change perspective, I no longer am angry. I no longer have the blame. I know what love and forgiveness is. I release, and I now see that past differently. I've changed the movie because I've changed the script
right.
of the past, and I've allowed that to alchemize and change who I am moving forward. That's how we change the script. I had a client who's done a really good job of script writing. And he and I were talking. He says, I actually don't see people sometimes, and I know they're there, but I don't see them. And I said, well, you have your stage, and they have theirs. And you've looked over and said, yeah, you're not in my movie. And you know they're there, but they're not in your movie. They don't have permission. Permissions are huge. They don't have permission to come on your stage. You've got your boundaries, and that's awesome. That's awesome. And honestly, Yanko, the two worlds taking form, guys, that's what's happening. You're like, what, what?
No, no, no. I can relate, but I'm thinking. We keep it mostly like like people will say PG-13. We keep it 3D mostly, and sometimes when we go up to like um, fourth density, fifth dimension, if somebody's like, "What are you talking about? Like, what two worlds?" Like,
Right? And
and
it's perfect. So I'll give you, we are in the now.
hmm
The whole world is in the now,
hmm
this moment.
right,
But we experience this life in time zones. The world is in one moment. There is no time zone.
right,
What there is the shifting of the sun around the earth, the time, and we call that time,
hmm
right? And so we have chosen to create a reality of time because of the experience we have with the sun. So we've chosen to take this experience and this experience and this experience, label it,
Right.
and live our life by it.
Right.
We don't have to,
Right.
but we've chosen to do that. Does that
No, I know.
help?
No, I understand 100%. It's more of a clarification for anybody that'll watch the show or the replay and they'll be
Right.
like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Right.
Um, you know, and I say the same thing with people that I work with. Past life regressions. I just call them alternate life timeline regression. It's not like a past. Everything happens in the now. There is no. But for the sake of like people being familiar with the term, I still call it past life regression.
So I'll give you an example. I was working with someone on past life regression, and
Hmm.
it really is. So we're working on, let's say, fear. And so, did this happen? The root before, during, or after birth. So she's like, Gail, I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in. I said, well, look at it this way. You have something that you want to release about fear. Your mind is going to create a scenario that you can accept, that's far enough away from the now that you no longer feel the pain. And so your mind may pretend it's a past life because
Right.
that's far enough away. Can you accept that? And she said yes. And we went past life regression every step of the way. Right. So I don't know if it's real. I just know my mind is going to present it to me in a way I can consume it.
Right.
So I don't know if there's two worlds. My mind is going to take changes going on in a way that I can accept it. How's
But
that?
to circle back to what you were saying, and you don't have to convince me, this is going to be gold for our viewers. But to circle back to what we're talking about with the different shifts, dimensions, and realities, let's say I am a skeptic and I don't accept that. But then if it's happening to multiple people and they're not having a relation with one another, or, you know, sometimes people say, well, maybe they've seen it in a movie, maybe they like read it on the internet and their mind picked it up from somebody. And there's still like doubt that there isn't like a shared reality with like a shared consciousness. It's what I'm trying to get to.
There is doubt is beautiful as long as when I have doubt, I then become curious, right? So in the past, there was a time in my life, it's black or white. So if I had doubt, that's it, the door's closed, right? So I was there, guys. I had that line. And then one day I stepped over the line. I went, oh, crap. What I used to believe to be true, I now have evidence is not true, right? And that blew my mind. And so I had a choice to step back over the line and hang on to my beliefs or get curious and step over the line and step
And
over the line and step over the line. And after you step over, for me, after I stepped over the line so many times, there's no more, it's like the line in the sand, there's no more line in the sand. There's no more line. They're both true. They're both true. It's perspective. It's my reality, how I want to create my life.
right.
And it's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay. You don't have to believe this. It's your reality, and that's beautiful. It's your choice this time,
that's right.
right? Right. So so there's no judgment from me on anyone else's perspective or belief. But if you've come to me, that means you're open to scraping that line in the sand a little bit,
Right.
right? And not afraid of the result.
Well, not only that, but like I don't even have to question why somebody comes to me when they come to me. Like
Right.
if I vibrated and they came to me and we're on the same shared vibration and we, there was something like like there's something but it drives you nuts because you don't want to, like, you want to find out what it is. It's like a thorn in your mind, like pushing and pushing, and then you go and you start questioning things.
Yeah.
But so I don't even ask, like, if something, why, or why it's happening, or why am I meeting somebody, or, well, sometimes I do for purpose of entertainment, because, like, the mind doesn't see any, like, logical thing, and then I say to whoever I'm talking to, where are you going with this? So,
Right.
are we going somewhere, or we're just like having a conversation?
Right. So one of the things that I've looked at, is there resonance?
Yeah.
Is there a shared desire? Right. And when I'm talking to a potential client, the shared desire is, what is it that you need that I can provide? Sometimes I'm not the right person, and I will refer that client to the right person, right? Um, because it's really important to me that folks who are searching for answers find their answers, right? And it's egotistical for me to think that I have all the answers,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I don't.
Right.
I have some very important answers, and that is, you have the answers, and I can help you tap into you for your answers.
And that'll be a good point where I can remind our audience or viewers or whoever, now we're even on a podcast, so you can listen to us anytime of the comfort of your car when you're driving around. Um, we're on iTunes. Um, so it's a wonderful thing, but I want to remind everyone that we also connect with like-minded people. Like, I connect with Gail connects with me, she connects with thousands of other people that might have the answers for you. So even if Gail doesn't have the answers for you, or I don't have the answers for you, and I go, nope, I'm totally the wrong person for you, then I can guide you to somebody that might be a good fit and be like, oh, that's perfect.
Right,
So still, if you stumble upon our show and you find it amusing or interesting, and you're curious about things, and you want to ask something, and go like, maybe I have a stupid question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyways, go ahead. Send us a request, comment, ask, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so swinging it back to business, woo, and you, right? I would say that the majority of the people that come to me are entrepreneurs, and they're uh, successful entrepreneurs who are like, maybe they pray or meditate every morning, maybe they journal, and it's not working anymore. And here's why. The tools you use to get to the third diving board is not going to work for the fourth diving board, right? It's like anything in life. Certain tools will get you to the first stoplight, but you need a different tool to get to the next one. So I work with the people who, one of my clients called and she said, I lost my mojo. So if you lost your mojo, or you think you lost your mojo, it's, you've gotten to your level, you've gotten to like a stasis. And if you want more, you need a different approach for the next level living. And
Wonderful.
it's so much fun, so much fun. And Yanko, I've had the opportunity to have Yanko on my podcast. I got to know him, and he's just he's got a gift that he's willing to share. And it's more than hypnosis. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I know you're right about that. But that's a work in progress, I would say. Yes. Yeah.
So we have a coffee grinder there. The coffee grinder is done.
No,
Yeah,
that's fine. And this is just to show our viewers that this is as raw as it goes. We're
it
not
is.
like pre-planning anything. We're not pre-recording, cutting bad parts off, or only sharing the good stuff.
Oh,
Um,
there's too much
this
good stuff.
well, no, everything it's good. Good and bad are just um, programs that people think that they know what's good or bad, because what's bad for one person could be good for another person. It's a
One
perspective.
one person's
So
junk is another person's prize, right?
that's right. And this is why it's wonderful. Like
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyone who is feeling separation or like they're burying who they are, and the key word these days is the imposter syndrome. What are you feeling imposter about? Right? Um, it's because you're cutting off part of you. The woo people are cutting off their business. They're up in the fifth dimension, sixth dimension somewhere, out of touch with reality, and I try to bring it back in. And then the business people are cutting themselves off from their ability to really instinctively move their business and their life forward in exponentially, exponentially by trying to force it to happen.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts about this crazy conversation, Yanko? We're getting near the
No, I
end.
was just gonna come around the same thing, but you and me resonate the same way. So I was just gonna say anything last before we wrap it up, because we're coming to the top of the hour, and how are we gonna wrap this up? I would say my last thoughts. You might go first. May I go first?
Please do.
So I would say this was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoy sharing your perspective with anyone, and just being curious about like things, how you see things, and how you help people, and how you help other people to transform and get to this journey called life. And so,
Yeah.
again, I'm honored to have you as a co-host in this episode with me. It was a pleasure. I felt like a lot get unloaded, and there's a lot of gold in this episode.
There's a
So,
lot of gold. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, and that's all I'm gonna say. And I'll be happy again to receive any feedback from our audience or anything, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. How about you? Any parting thoughts?
So it's funny because I call it the game I call life. I can't say the game of life because there is a game out there. Right? Um, when we own that it's just a game, it's joy, it's fun, it's laughter, it's your child skipping down the street. And that's what this experience has been with you. And it always is. When we get together, we are raw, real, honest, authentic. We don't care. We can disagree, agree, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
So, right, right. It doesn't matter because it's all perspective. And that's cool. The more that more granularity and the more diversion we bring, the more you can see the changes in the flow of life. Um, I love the fact that you erased the line in the sand with me today. Thank you for having me. Thank Kerri for having the day off. It's
I'm
always
sure.
fun.
I'm sure you'll hear back from her when she comes back. So
Oh,
thanks again.
thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.